Welcome to week 7, evaluating functions. Okay, to review for this week, we will have like all the functions, operator between the functions. So we'll have f plus g of x is f of x plus g of x. Similar for subtractions, multiplications, and divisions. So we know that already. Now we review on how to evaluate a number. So if we have the value of x equal 1, right? And you want to evaluate the f of x. It means you find the value of y. So y equal f of x. And in this case, I will take example at f of x equal x squared plus 2 x. Alright, so now how do you do that? So we just rewrite the f of that equal whenever you see x, you make the parenthesis like that, so you left the space for the x value, so you don't forget what is the function is. So we have x squared, we have the parenthesis square plus 2x with plus 2 parenthesis. Now we plug in the value of x equal 1, so plug in 1. Okay, whenever we see x, we plug in the given value of x. Okay, now we just simplify it. So 1 squared is 1 plus 2, that equals 3. So we will have a point is 1, 3. That belongs to our f of x equal x squared plus 2x. Alright, so now the second thing is this one is we evaluate to get a value. So the given is the value of x. Okay, now if they asking given the g of x equal x plus 1, okay, that's a function, that's another function, and they want to know what is the f of g of x equal to, and we have a field note, right? So f of g of x, we write like that the compositions at f compositions of g of x. And remember, the functions outside will represent the first positions right here, and then the inside, right, the inside functions will be the second spot right here. Alright, so this one is the same as f composition of g of x in f of x. So that will be like that, right? And now we see that we have f of x is x squared plus 2x, but now our x inside is a functions. So we do the same. We can just write f of x, right? Open. Now open parenthesis, and then now x squared, and now plus 2x. Okay, now we plug in what value? G of x. G of x. And what is the value of g of x? That x plus 1. So f of x plus 1, because g of x equal x plus 1. Now we simplify this. So we have that x squared plus 2x plus 1 plus 2x plus 2. Combine like term, x squared, we have 4x plus 3. So this is plug in the value. This is plug in the function. Now, if they're asking plug in the value of a functions inside of functions, what we do. So they say, what is the f of g of x when x equal 1? Okay. If that, we can do two methods. Okay, the first one, I good know what is the g of 1. The value g of 1. Okay, so I will find the value g of 1. What is the g of 1? Because my final answer have to be the f of g of 1, right? When you plug x in here. Okay, so I want to know what is the g of 1. So the function g of x equal x plus 1. So that x plus 1. And then the value of x is 1, right? That g of 1. Here we go. Now we have 1 plus 1 is 2. So g of 1 equal 2. When you plug in the f of g of 1, it means that value will become equal f of 2. Why 2? Where it came from? Here. Because g of 1 is 2. Right? Now we find the f of 2 by plugging 2 inside of the functions f of x. So f of 2 equal, now f of x equal x squared. So x squared, open parenthesis, square plus 2x. Okay, now plug in. Now 2, 2. Here this position is x equal 2. Okay. So now we simplify. We have 4 plus 4 that equal 8. So this one will be equal 8. How about we use the functions f of g of x to solve for these questions? So we know that we have the functions f of g of x is this one. Yes, so now we rewrite that one more time over here. We have f of g of x that equal x squared plus 4x plus 3. And now we want to evaluate when x equal 1. This one the same questions, but two different way. This one I find the g of 1 first, then plug in g of 1 value inside of f of x to find the answer. Now I just plug in. Okay, so this one will be f of g of x. That will be equal. Now the x, we left it blank, right? So this one will be square plus 4, open parenthesis, plus 3. Now we plug the value 1 in. Then simplify it. We'll have 1 plus 4 plus 3. And we still have 8 at the answer. So the answer has to be the same, but the difference is This is to find the value of the g of 1 first, then plug in, right? Evaluate it again with f. For this, the second method right here is we have to find what if the functions represent the f of g of x. Then we plug in the value. Alright, let's start practice some questions about this. Question number 1, given function f of x equals 7x plus 9. So evaluate f of -6. This one means when x equals -6, what is f of x? So we rewrite it one more time, f of x that equals 7x plus 9. Okay, now we plug in, right? X equals -6. So plug in -6 in. And then we simplify this one. 7 times -6 is -42. Plus 9. That will be -33. Okay, so the point will be -6, comma, -33. Okay. So the next one will be f, still f of x, right? So f of 7 parenthesis plus 9. Whenever I see x, I replace it with a parenthesis. So we left it blank to plug in x value so we don't forget it. So that is 5 over 7. 5 over 7. Now simplify it. That 7 with this 7 is cancel out. It's 1 times 5 is 5 plus 9. That equals 14. And at the point it will be 5 over 7 for x value. Y value is 14. Question number 2, we have g of x equals x squared plus 9 of x minus 12. Now evaluate g of 4. So it means x equals 4 and x equals -7. So the first case we have g of open parenthesis x squared plus 9x minus 12. Alright, now what is the value? We plug in. So x equals 4, g of 4, we plug 4 in, the positions of x, and then simplify it. So that's 16 plus 36 minus 12. That equals 16 subtract 12 is 4 plus 36, 40. Okay, how we write in the point order is will be 4, 40. Now, similar to the g of -7, so g of x equal x squared plus 9x minus 12. Now the value of x is -7. Okay, we evaluate, we calculate it is 49. Remember, when you square the negative number, it will be positive. 9 times -7 is -63. Subtract 12. And this one is -26. We can write a point at -7, -26. Okay, so for these questions, we will do f plus g of x that equal f of x plus g of x. And f of x is -2x plus 6 plus g of x is 5x plus 9. Now we plug in x value is 10. Okay, this is f of x, that is g of x. Okay, now we evaluate this. -20 plus 6 plus 50 plus 9. So 50 minus 20 is 30, and 9 39, and 6 is 45. Now next we have f minus g of -8. That equal f of x minus the g of x. That equal -2 plus 6 minus, making sure put the g of x inside the bracket so we don't forget to distribute the negative in front of it. Okay, that will be 5x plus 9, close the bracket, and plug x equal -8 in. Now we evaluate this one. That will be 16 plus 6. 5 times -8 is -40. Now we distribute that negative in front, inside. That will become positive 40. Then we distribute that negative with the positive 9. That will be -9. (16) plus 6 is 22, plus 40 is 62, and then subtract 9. That will be 53. Now f times g of 7. We have f times g of 7. That equal f of 7 times g of 7. Now f of x is, now put in the big bracket. F of x is -2x plus 6, close the bracket. Multiply the g of x is 5x plus 9, close bracket. That the x is equal 7, so we plug 7 in. Now we evaluate the inside the bracket, each bracket. That will be -14 plus 6. That -8. multiply 5 times 7, 35, plus 9, that would be 44. This one will be produced negative because we have one negative number multiply with a positive number, right? So 8 times 4 is 32. Write 2, remember 3. And 8 times 4 again is 32. Remember 3 is 35. (44 times 8). 8 times 4 is 32. Remember 3. 8 times 4 is 32 again. And 3 is 35. Alright.
So similar for these questions, we will rewrite it one more time. So h minus g of negative 9, that will be equal h of negative 9 minus g of negative 9. Okay, so h of negative 9 is 7 times negative 9 plus 1. That's our h of x. And then we subtract. Remember, whenever you subtract the g of x, making sure you put it in the bracket so that you don't forget to distribute the negative in front of it. Okay, so the big bracket, g of x is 4 times negative 9 minus 13. 7 times negative 9 is negative 63 plus 1. Okay, minus 4 times 9 is negative, this is negative 36. Okay, so we distribute that negative, we got plus 36, and that negative with the negative 13, that's going to be positive 13. So we have plus 36 and plus 13. Alright, so we have negative 63 plus 13, that will be negative 50. Negative 50 plus 36 is negative 14. Plus 1 is negative 13. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is g times h of negative 4. I made you the purple so we can see the different color. Okay, so g of negative 4 multiply h of negative 4. Okay, g of negative 4 is 4 times negative 4, okay, minus 13. Now multiply the h of negative 4 is 7 times negative 4 plus 1. So we have 4 times 4 is 16 with the negative minus 13. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28 plus 1. Negative 29 multiply negative 27. And this equal 786. 3. First of all, we know that the negative times negative will make it positive. That negative and negative make it positive. Okay, so we just take 29 multiply 27. Okay, so the last one, g over h of 12, that will be g of 12 divided by h of 12. And g of 12 is 4 times 12 minus 13 over h of 12 is 7 times 12 plus 1. That's 4 times 12 is 48. 48 subtract 13 is 35. Now 7 times 12 is 84. 7 times 2 is 4. Remember 1, 14. Remember, write 4, remember 1. And then we have 7 times 1 is 7. Plus 1 is 84. Plus 1 is 85. Now 35 and 85 you can divide by 5, right? Simplify it. So 35 divided by 5 is 7. 85 divided by 5 is 17. Okay. So this question is given the f of x when x equal negative 5, 0, 2, and 4. G of x when x equal the same, right? The same value of x. So x equal negative 5. You have f of x equals 6. So we can rewrite at f of negative 5 equals 6. And then g of negative 5 equals 4. That's what it means. So you read the value by cross. So x here is the x value, right? Column. And then f of x, f of negative 5 will be 6. G of negative 5 will be 4. Okay, based on that, we know how to read, right? The table. So that will be, if we say f of 0, what it should be is negative 8. F of 2, that will be 0. F of 4, that will be 19. Then G of 0, that will be negative 3. G of 2 will be 12. G of 4, this will be 0. Now we base on the characteristic of a function, of two functions. So we will fill in the table below. So we have f plus g is f of x plus g of x. So f of negative 5 plus g of negative 5, so that will be 6 plus 4, that equals 10. Okay, at f, so we read this one, the second one, f of 0 plus g of 0, that negative a, plus negative 3, that is negative 11. Now for the 2, f of 2 equals 0, g of 2 equals 12, so 12 plus 0 is 12. Now f of 4 plus g of 4, that 19 plus 0 is 19. Okay, so now f minus g of x, that will be f of x minus g of x. Okay, so f of negative 5 will be 6. Subtract g of x, and x equal negative 5, so g of negative 5 will be 4. So 6 minus 4 is 2. Okay, for the 0, we have negative 8. Subtract the g of x. G of x is g of 0 is negative 3. That will be negative 8 plus 3, that's negative 5. So for the f of 2 minus g of 2, that's 0, minus 12, that's negative 12. f of 4 is 19. Subtract g of 4 is 0, that's 19. So for multiplications, f of x times g of x. So we have f of negative 5 is 6 times 4, that's 24. Okay, so negative 8 times negative 3, that's 24. Okay, 12 and 0, 0 times 12, that's 0. 19 times 0 is 0. Okay, so for the last one, f, that will be f of x divided by g of x. Okay, now when x equal negative 5, f of x is 6. Okay, 6 divided by 4, that's 3 over 2. Okay, next one, we have f of 0 is negative 8. Negative 8 divide negative 3, that is 8 over 3. The negative is cancelled out, right? Now f of 2 divide by g of 2. So 0 divided by 12, that is 0. Now the last one, we have f of 4 divided by g of 4, that 19 divided by 0, that is undefined. We cannot have 0 at denominator. The denominator have to be different from 0. If it equals 0, it means undefined. That's why we have right here the g of x have to be different from 0. That is the conditions. Alright. So for these questions, the first one we have is f of g of 10. We can rewrite it f of g of 10, right? Now we want to know what the value of g of 10. G of 10 is negative 2 times 10 minus 5. That equal negative 20 here minus 5 equal negative 25. So we plug in the value g of 10 here. By the value is negative 25. Okay, so we have f of negative 25. Now we plug in, right? So a times negative 25 minus 13. A times negative 25 is negative 200. that negative 213. Okay, so the next one is g of f of 10. Now we have g outside, okay, f of 10 that equals g of, what is the f of 10? We have to find what is the f of 10. So f of 10 will be equal a times 10 minus 13. That 80 minus 13. That will be 67. Okay, so we plug in 67 here because that's the value of f of 10 right here, right? Now g of 67 will be negative 2 times 67 minus 5. And that will be negative 2 times 67 is 134. We minus 5, so will be negative 139. Okay, so the last one. Now we have f compositions of f of negative 6. That will be f, the first one, and then the inside still f, negative 6. That equal. Now we have to find what is f of negative 6. F of negative 6 equal to a times negative 6 minus 13. A times negative 6 is negative 48 minus 13. Okay, so a plus 3 is 11. Remember 1? 61. So negative 61. So we have f outside. F of negative 6 is negative 61. Now we have a times negative 61 minus 13. That will be a times 1 is a times 6 is 48. Minus 13. That will be equal negative. A plus 3 is 11. So write 1, remember 1. A plus 1 is 9 plus 1 is 10, so 0, remember 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. So similar for this question, we will start with f of g of 2, right? So f of g of 2. Now we have to know what is the g of 2. So g of 2, that 4 times 2 minus 17. That 8 minus 17, that negative 9. So we plug in f of negative 9, that equal 3 times negative 9 squared plus 7 times negative 9 plus 2. That equals 3 times 81 minus 63 plus 2. That equals 3 times 81. That 243 minus 61. that equal 182. Okay, so for the next one, we'll have g of f of -5. Now we rewrite as g of f of -5. Now we have to know what is f of -5. So we plug in 3 times -5 squared minus or plus 7 times -5 plus 2. That's 3 times 25 minus 35 plus 2. That's 75 minus 35 plus 2. That equals 42. So this one will be g of 42. That 4 times 42 minus 17. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 4 is 16. Minus 17. 168 minus 17. That gives us 151. Okay, so the last one. What first will be outside? So g of f of g of 6. So we write g, okay, of f of g of 6. So whenever we say of, we have the parenthesis. And the most inside functions is g of 6. So we have to find what is g of 6. So g of 6 will be equal 4 times 6 minus 17. That is 24 minus 17. That will be 7. Now we rewrite it g of f of 7. We replace the g of 6 equals 7, right? Now we have to know what is f of 7. So we say f of 7 equal 3 times 7 squared plus 7 times 7 plus 2. That 3 times 49 plus 49 plus 2. So we know that is about 4 times 49, right? Because we have 3 times of the 49 plus 1 time of the 49 again. So if we take 49 out, we will have 3 plus 1. That's 4 times 49. That's 160. That's 196. 196. And then we plus 2. That's 198. Okay, so that will be equal g of 198. Alright, now we have to evaluate the value of g when x equals 198. Okay, 198. Okay, so g of that will be equal 4 times 198, right, minus 17. So 4 times 8 is 32. Write 2, remember 3. 4 times 9 is 36. Remember 3 will be 39. Remember 3 again. 4 times 1 is 4. Remember 3 is 7. Minus 17. 12. Subtract 7 is 5. Write 5. Remember 1. 9. Subtract 2 is 7. And then 7 subtract 0 is 7. So 775. Okay, so for these questions, they don't ask you for specific value. They're just asking how to find it. So we just write that. For the first one, we have f of g of x, right? That means you have to find f of g of x. So what is g of x? Is given is 4x minus 17. So we write f of 4x minus 17. And what is that? F of x is that 3, okay, times whatever inside is 4x minus 17. That's square, right? And then plus 7 times x. X now is 4x minus 17 plus 2. Remember, the g of x is 4x minus 17. So that is the value you plug in the x of f of x, right? So we have to simplify this one. That equals 3 times 16x squared minus 2 times 4x times 17 plus 17 squared. Okay, remember that is a minus b squared. A minus b squared, that a squared minus 2a times b plus b squared. Okay, now we continue with the next term is plus 7 times 4x, point that 28x, 7 times negative 17 minus 7 times 7, 49, write 9, remember 4, that 11. 7 times 1 is 7, with 4, 11. And then plus 2. Now we find, or we distribute 3 times 16, that 48x squared, minus 3 times 2 is 6 times 4 is 24 times 17. That will be 408 x. That's the next term. Okay. Now plus 3 times 17 squared. That will be a 67. Okay, rewrite this one more time. 28x minus 117. Okay, that equals 48x squared Now combine like term. Negative 408 plus 28x. That will be negative 380 x. Okay, now we have a 67. Subtract 117. That will be 750. Okay, now they're asking for the domain. This is what? This is the polynomial. So at the polynomial, what is the domain? The domain will be from negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, so for the next one, we have g of f of x. We do the same. So the first one is g, so it will be outside, f of x inside. So g of x is 4 times x. Now this time x is f of x. So that's 3x squared plus 7x plus 2. That's 4x. Okay, so remember 2 minus 17. Now that equal 4 times 3 is 12x squared. 4 times 7 is 28x plus 8 minus 17. That equals 12x squared plus 28x. 8 subtract 17 is negative 9. Okay, so this one also the polynomial, and the domain will be from negative infinity to infinity. And we know this one is the U-shaped graph, like that. Also this one the U-shape for the graph. Okay, so similar for these questions, we will find f divided by g of x. That will be f of x divided by g of x, and g of x has to be different from 0. That is the restricted value for g of x. So g of x have to be different from 0. Okay. Now we will write the f of x is square root of x plus 7. Divide by g of x is 3x plus 2. And to graph any functions, we need a real number, right, to represent it at this point. So we want our thing under the square root have to be greater than or equal to 0. Otherwise, if we have the negative under square root, we will have the imaginary number, and we don't want that at this point. So we need to set up x plus 7 for under square root. So it has to be greater than or equal to 0, right, for the square root. And then for the denominator, that g of x have to be different from 0. So 3x plus 2 have to be different from 0. Now for the first one, we square both sides. We'll have x plus 7 greater than or equal to 0. Then we will have x greater than or equal to negative 7 by subtract 7 both sides. Okay, so another one is, so this is one of the restricted value for the domain. And then we have 3x plus 2 different from 0, x different from negative 2 over 3. We know that we have to subtract 2 from both sides, and then we divide both sides by 3. Now we have to write the domain, right? The domain will be everything have to be greater than, let's draw a line. It has to be greater than negative 7, so that it will be close, right? And then it has to be go to this side. Okay, that is positive infinity. Then negative 2 over 3 is less than 2 over 3 is less than 1. So negative 2 over 3 will be greater than negative 1. So if here is negative 1, we have the negative 2 over 3 right here. And at that value, it has to be open because we don't choose that point. So we check this part and this part, right? So how we write the domain? In notations, in interval notations. So we will write at the domain x will belong to bracket negative 7 because we choose that that's the same value, that close point right here. Okay, comma to negative 2 over 3. We don't take that value. We union with negative 2 over 3 go to positive infinity. We use all the parentheses at this negative 2 over 3, and because the negative 2 over 3 is not included in our domain, because with that value, the functions f divided by g of x will be undefined. Alright. Now the next one will be g over f, right? G over f of x, that will be g of x divided by f of x. G of x is 3x plus 2. F of x is square root of x plus 7. Now, the square root of x plus 7 have to be greater than or equal to 0 because of the square root. But now also, it at the denominator in this case. So, x plus 7, the square root of x plus 7 have to be strictly greater than 0 because it have both square root property to get the real number and also it have us locate at the denominator. So we solve for this one, so x will be greater than -7. So in this case, the domain will be strictly greater, right? So that open parenthesis -7, comma, infinity. Right, now the next one, we will have f of g of x. Now f is the first one, so it will be outside function. Now we have g of x inside. Now f of x is square root of x, right, plus 7. Now our x is g of x, so that 3x plus 2. Now that one equals square root of 3x plus 9. And if we set with the square root, we need it greater than or equal to 0. Right? Greater than equal to 0. Now we square both sides, we will have 3x plus 9 greater than or equal to 0. Now x greater than or equal to -9 over 3. That is -3. So x greater than or equal to -3, it means it includes the point x equal -3. So the domain will be bracket for equal sign -3, comma, positive infinity, parenthesis. Okay, for the last one, we will have g of f of x. That equals g of f of x. G of x is 3x plus 2. And now our f of x is square root of x plus 7. So now in this case, we'll only care about the square root of x plus 7, right? Square root of x plus 7 has to be greater than or equal to 0. So x greater than or equal to -7. So the domain will be equal that bracket -7, comma, infinity, parenthesis. Thank you for participating in this series. Week 7, practice questions. See you next time.